On today's show, the LA Clippers continue their struggles against the New Orleans Pelicans in the Big Easy with what was a frustrating loss in a game of runs in which they trailed by as many as 21 points, took the lead but could not come up with the win. What went wrong down the stretch and throughout the game that made this one so difficult for the Clips? Going to be talking about it all on today's Locked On Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You were locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in LA, been a Clipper fan for 20 years, been covering the Clippers on my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper for 5, and Locked On Clippers here for 3. Make sure to subscribe to both YouTube channels, hit the notification bell, and of course, you can listen to Locked On Clippers wherever you get your podcasts. And we also have a newsletter. LockedOnDaily.com is where you sign up for it. I write it every day. LockedOnDaily.com. Now, in this episode, we're going to talk about this loss that snapped our 3-game winning streak at New Orleans. I'm going to be talking about why I actually think the offense was a bigger problem than our defense, even though we scored 120 points. Or I'll just describe what I mean by that. And then in the second segment, I'm going to talk about the consistent problems we're having closing games, and then Kawhi watch. So let's begin by talking about why I believe that offense actually was kind of more of an issue for us than our defense. Now, the score of the game was 127 to 120, but it was such a game of runs, and it began in the first quarter where we could not really score the ball. It was 21-28. James Harden had some, he was really cold from three, and he was only shooting threes. The first 6 shots he took were threes, and there were a couple of bad ones that I felt like, he could have probably taken to the basket or passed the ball instead of taking a step back. Kawhi actually got going, but he was really the only one that had gotten going in that first quarter, and we were down 21-28 after 1, which again, we're talking about a New Orleans Pelicans team. They don't have DeJounte Murray. They traded Brandon Ingram. They're still a solid team with Zion and CJ McCollum, but, even though we don't have Norm and we don't have Ben Simmons, I feel as though we should be going in there and setting a tone. You know what I mean? Not going down. I mean, it happens. You go down in the early stages of games sometimes, but there were several runs they made. And I just think that when you play against a team like that, a team that's had a rough season with injuries, dead last in the conference, you got to stamp your authority early, especially when we're in a situation where we're trying to win every game. But Chris Dunn and James Harden combined for 1 for 10 in that first quarter. And again, I don't think the process was horrific by the team. I just think we weren't really hitting shots. I mean, James Harden and Ivica Zubac got some double teams right away in that first quarter. We were doubling Zion Williamson throughout the game, when he caught the ball inside the arc in isolation. But Chris Dunn wasn't able to make shots. Even Nico Batum was 1 for 3 in the first. As I said, the only one on the team that started. And, Zubac only shot 1 time in the first, but every other starter shot more than 1 time. And Kawhi was the only one that shot over 34% in that first quarter. So that was the first run. And what happened was when we weren't able to score, they were able to get out in transition, and we were, scrambling defensively. That's where it all begins. And then in the second quarter, we actually started out horrifically. Small ball lineup with Kawhi and Kobe Brown at the 5. We went 9 deep with Kobe Brown being our 9th guy. Of course, Amir Coffey, Bogdan Bogdanovic, and Derrick Jones Jr. coming off the bench. And then we had Kobe Brown play 4 minutes in the first half as that 9th man, and he was a -9. And in that unit, we just didn't get good shots, really, and weren't able to protect the rim at all. So we didn't play Drew Eubanks in this game. We went with the small ball lineup, but it didn't have Nico in. It was Kawhi, Kobe Brown, Bogey. I think Derrick Jones Jr. was out there. I don't think we can play a small ball lineup, honestly, without Nico and Kawhi or Nico and Derek Jones being in there, honestly. I think with Ben Simmons, it makes things a lot easier for that. But we were too small, and that's the thing. We just don't have a serviceable backup center, and that's a problem. If we're being honest, Drew Eubanks, he's not that guy, and the coaching staff seems to know it. And I feel like Clipper fans in very short time have kind of seen that. But I thought we did a good job responding in that second quarter, right? Talk about a game of runs, responding in that second quarter. And it started with James Harden looking better. He had a rough first quarter, but he had some really good passes in that second, whether it be pick and roll, outlet. And when we were starting to get stops or starting to score a little bit, because Kawhi was looking good on both ends, right? Both ends, I might emphasize. I'll talk more about Kawhi's individual performance later, but we got some buckets on, when Kawhi scores, now we get to set up our defense, third best defense in the league. And while I thought throughout the game, I'm not going to sit here and say that the defense was not an issue at all. I thought, especially the first, 3 quarters, Chris Dunn, Nico Batum, Derek Jones Jr., these guys that we so frequently have been praising because they've been so good defensively this year, were just not as much Nico Batum, but recently, they were kind of getting beat a little easily, a little easier than usual. And I don't know if, it was what time they arrived or something, but I thought we were just a step slow defensively. We were just in rotation too much. And part of that was because we were throwing 2 on the ball at Zion. And I thought sometimes when he was against Kawhi, we didn't need to help. We let Kawhi go defend one-on-one because there were some really good defensive possessions from Kawhi, whether it be one-on-one or off the ball in this game, that were more like old Kawhi. But I thought we overhelped at times with Zion. But other than that, I thought, you can say that we were a little bit lacking defensively compared to normal, but I truly believe the stretches in which we allowed so many points were just because we were bricking and they had an outlier shooting game from 3. And that's something that I need to emphasize is I don't know what's going on. We thought maybe that 3-game stretch that we won was going to help us a little bit in this department, but we're allowing like the same amount of open threes as we have all season. Someone told me even less, and teams are just knocking down threes at a crazy rate, even teams that don't shoot well from 3. And just to prove my point, in the first quarter, we were 1 for 11 from 3. They were 3 for 7. So even though they didn't make a bunch of threes, they already were shooting 43% to our 9% in that first quarter. We went down by as many as 21 points in that second. But then, as I said, and by the way, the Pelicans went on a 12-0 run with Zoo out of the game. The non-Zoo minutes were really bad. But as I said, a lot of points in transition, and Kawhi Leonard was actually, for the second straight game, doing a really solid job getting out. Honestly, throughout this win streak, I'd say, throughout the win streak, doing a good job of getting out and running, and James Harden will always find him on the break. So it's good to see Kawhi moving like that. But as I said, second quarter, we ended the quarter well. James Harden, as I said, was looking better, had some great passes, and Ivica Zubac was the beneficiary of some of those, and he had a buzzer beater to close the quarter on a 15-4 run after we were down by as many as 21, as I said. So some really good stuff, but it all starts with making shots and then setting up our defense. When we get to set up our defense, that allows Zubac to get in the paint. That allows everybody to find the matchups, guard the matchups that they were intended to guard. No cross matches, all that. You know what I mean? You get your defense set, make New Orleans Pelicans work harder, and then we get stops, and that leads to our transition. That's just how basketball goes. So offense really does help your defense. And I think in this game, our bad stretches really came when we could not shoot. We could not hit shots. And they would, they're a younger team. They got guys like Trey Murphy. They got guys like Alvarado. Zion even still. When he's healthy, he's a demon. Eve's Missy. So they have athletes. They're going to go out and run. You know what I'm saying? That's going to be a little harder for us. CJ McCollum really being the only veteran, on this team in that rotation. Bruce Brown's not, he's kind of a vet, but he's like, what? He's a good athlete. He's 29, 30 years old. Let's see. 30 years old, I'm guessing. 28. See? He's only 2 years older than me. Jordan Hawkins is young. That Carlo Matkovic guy, second-round pick in 2022, he was good. He played well. But yeah, We got outscored 33-30 in the second quarter, but we were going into the second half with momentum. Made that initial run in that beginning of the third, going through Zubats exclusively. It was really great stuff. I loved seeing how deliberate we were about that going through Zoo. And we were drawing two to the ball every time. That's the kind of respect that he's getting. He's getting so much more comfortable dishing out of the post. And when we get to set our defense, Pels were missing some of the shots they were making in the first half. We went on a 7-0 run. I don't think our defense was that much better. I just thought we were able to get set. So that Zubac stuff mixed with Kawhi hitting threes and knocking down shots. Harden hit 2 step back threes. We tied up the game. Our defense was really good, as I said, when it was set. But then we ended the third quarter badly. So, like, again, game of runs completely. Some really bad turnovers by Harden, some bad shots by Bogdanovich, and bad transition defense. One of them was Trey Murphy was against Bogey. Sorry, Zion was against Bogey. Harden came and helped. Trey Murphy was open for 3. Honestly, I think that help was valid, even though it was one pass away. I think Harden, you got to help. Bogey against Zion on an island is not going to end well for us. And then one of them was it was bad. He fell asleep. Harden in transition on a made basket. Any coach would get mad at that. Again, is that hating for me to say that, guys? I know the stands are going to think that, but Clipper fans, is that hating for me to say that? Because I'm not just going to ignore plays that happen in the game. Everyone's going to get their turn, trust me. But on a made basket, you can't be giving up a bucket like that. On a lob in 5 seconds, he's the last man back. But at this point, Harden still had cleaned up what was a horrible first quarter with 2 really solid quarters, especially the third quarter. He had 20 and 13 after 3. I was like, what? 13 assists? I mean, it felt like he had a lot, like 8 or 9, but 13? It's like, damn, because you got to think he's throwing all the entry passes to Zoo when he's getting the post, and it's not necessarily like an assist where Harden's dropping it off for him for a wide open shot. He's going to still have to work, but you get those assists. Guys have always gotten those assists. But fourth quarter, they went on an 18-3 run, starting with that third quarter. And it was no good on both ends, in my opinion, from Bogdanovich. He was missing some shots, taking some tough ones, and defensively was not great. But yeah, we still were able to get it close at the end, narrow it down. And Chris Dunn was actually a big part of that. I didn't really think he was doing much in the first 3 quarters. Then he had 5 straight points, a 3-ball, and then an amazing steal. Amir Coffey was making some big shots. We went on a 15-2 run. And again, it was our role guys missing open threes in that run where they went on a 18-3 run. And their role guys were making threes. They were just spraying. Jose Alvarado was just spraying. Trey Murphy was just spraying. And us bricking shots was leading to transition for them. But I think some of the big plays that ended up losing us the game, to my opinion, were because we still were right there. We were still right there, despite all the stuff I'm saying, and despite the fact that I feel like our defense, when it was set, was actually really good. It was more so, it was an off defensive night for us, yes, but it was our offensive cold spells that really spelled disaster for us. But coming up, I'm going to be talking about the closing moments of the game and the plays that lost us the game and what our problem, or talking about the problem closing games for us. Because God, it's been tough. I can't freaking talk right now, Jesus. I got to tell you a little something about Wayfair. Your home should reflect your style. And with Wayfair, it's easier than ever to make that happen. Whether you're looking for a simple refresh or tackling a big home project, Wayfair has everything you need in one place. Wayfair's huge selection makes it easy to find the perfect place no matter your space or budget. From cozy furniture and stylish decor to kitchen essentials and outdoor must-haves, Wayfair has it all. And at prices that fit your budget. I was looking for a new rug to tie my living room together, and Wayfair had so many stylish options at great prices. Head over to wayfair.com and find something that's just your style today. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair. Every style, every home. This is a message from sponsor Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, and then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. And then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. Now Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return, while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. All so you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now this is Taxes. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only in iOS mobile app. See guaranteed details at TurboTax.com/guaranteed. All right, talking about the Clippers losing this one 127 to 120 to the New Orleans Pelicans, who are 18 and 48 on the season. I don't know what it is with these guys over these last couple of years. We're 4 and 11 against, no, sorry, after this loss, 4 and 12 against them in the Ty Lue era. Of course, Ty Lue is still out with that bad back. Brian Shaw coached again, but damn. 4 and 12. And they've had Ingram out some games, Zion out some games, both of them some games. There was that game that I went to. There's a vlog on my channel about it. Valanciunas turned into Dirk Nowitzki one night in 2022. And we just seem to rarely beat them over there. I don't know what it is. And then, of course, that play-in loss at Staples Center. That was brutal. But let's talk about some of the plays that ended up losing us this game at the end. Because in the third quarter, we outscored them 39-37. So that particularly, it's funny, I said the offense, but that particular quarter obviously is not a reflection of what I'm saying. That quarter was kind of an outlier, and we won it by 2. But our problems are how cold we got in those moments. Now, in the fourth quarter, we're hanging around. As I said, everything started changing when we started getting stops. Chris Dunn was scoring and stuff like that. Amir Coffey, actually, I thought, had a solid defensive game. He's been struggling on that end of the floor recently, but I thought he was staying in the second half at least. He's staying in front of the ball well and got his hands on a couple of balls. But there was one big offensive rebound that Chris Dunn and Ivica Zubac didn't get. Led to a CJ McCollum 3 to put him up by, I believe, 9 in that fourth quarter. That was huge. Zubac did not put a body on his guy. And Chris Dunn, I think he was against Yves Missy or someone much bigger than him, and we didn't box out. Might have been Zion even, but we got to do a better job boxing out. Simple as that. No rebounds, no rings. They had 23 second chance points. 23. That's big time. And then Kawhi Leonard shot an air ball when Derrick Jones Jr. was open in the corner, but I have to say, Derrick Jones Jr. just wanted to get out of the way and give him space instead of just staying right there in like the dunker spot or short corner. He would have gotten the ball and could have gone up for a layup. Like, let's not be so quick to vacate to let someone ISO. If they're doubling and loading up, then there's open spots to the floor. I think, honestly, I don't know what it is about clear outs on the opposite side of the floor. Guys are not flashing to open spaces anymore. They're kind of just hanging out on the other side of the court, standing around, and these guys with length and size can split that difference pretty well. I'm not saying it affected that particular possession. I'm just saying in general. I think Nico Batum actually does a very solid job of flashing to open spaces when teams do that kind of stuff. But that was a bad shot by Kawhi. Air ball, after having a great game so far to this point, by the way. Air balls that shot. And then Harden, let's see how many fouls he had, because he didn't put any body on. He had 3 fouls. He could have done a better job than getting his body in front against Zion there. It was way too easy. Way too easy. And then 3 missed free throws. We had a stretch, Clipper Nation, where it felt like we had gotten over those early season free throw demons. But Derrick Jones Jr., Ivica Zubac, and Kawhi, James Harden at least made his free throws at the end. I mean, it was 3 free throws. It would have been a tie game if we had made all those. Even if we had made 2 of those 3, 1-point game towards the end of the game would have been different. Then Harden had that turnover on the lob attempt and then missed the 3. So that was big. So in my opinion, we're having some trouble closing games. We outscored the Pels 30-29 in the fourth, but we've had some struggles closing games. Let's take a look at the schedule and talk about it for real. Sacramento, thankfully, we won that one. But against Phoenix, trouble closing game. We were winning by over 20 points. Lakers, both games, kind of neck and neck. Did not close them out. Detroit, that was a closer game on the road, that one. The Milwaukee game. So we've really had some struggles. The Utah game was a good one right before the All-Star break. I'd have to really go like down the line throughout the season. But even the Indiana game, it wasn't too close. The one at home when I was in the second row. But we didn't close that game. There's been a lot of games we haven't done a good enough job closing lately. And I think Norman Powell being out does matter very largely. I think it really does matter. I think Kawhi's missed some big free throws. I think Harden has had some rough stretches down the stretch of games. Let's read their stat lines, though. And I think we've also had role players not being able to make big shots at the end of games. I don't think anyone is particularly absolved of blame. I honestly think Zoo probably would be the one that I feel like I'm getting the most from in terms of what they're asked of in the fourth quarters or in the second halves. But there's been times where we don't give the ball to him enough. But this game, I don't feel like that was one of the games. I think we gave the ball to him a lot, and he created so many good shots, and you're starting to see his growth as a passer really coming along. The one thing I say he doesn't do a great job of is those late switches when he's in drop coverage in the pick and roll, which he was in this game, and so was Yves Missy. When he's in drop coverage and the guards pull it back out, we're a lot of times doing that late switch or that peel switch, whatever you want to call it, and now Zoo's guarding a perimeter guy. I'm not confident in that. And I think that's not even particularly a scheme thing. I think it's just what the players are doing on the fly because they feel as though they're going to get scored on or allow a good shot if they don't. But there were a couple of times where Zoo, late switched and he got beat. But overall, I mean, I thought he was fantastic. I think it's sad to me that Kawhi, Harden, and Zoo all had a pretty good game, all things considered. Little stretches in the game were the difference, but also some ridiculous shooting by the New Orleans Pelicans was the difference. You know what I mean? I mean, we shot, and again, it's another game where we're not shooting the ball well enough from three. As far as do we have a consistent closing problem? I mean, I think our stars got to be better at the end of games. And I'm saying that even though Kawhi just made a game winner, because it's not just about one game. It's the entire thing. I truly believe so. I think, though, Norman Powell coming back is going to alleviate some of that burden. I think we are starting to figure out feeding Zoo in the second halves more is a good thing and stuff like that. I also think our role players need to be a little clutcher. But again, I'm not expecting Amir Coffey and Chris Dunn to make big threes at the end of games. Same with Derrick Jones Jr. I'm really not. They're not great three-point shooters. I do expect a little bit more from Bogdanović, however. Even though, by the way, I did say he was our X factor, and it seems like that's right. He did not play well in this game, and we lost. And he played well in the last three games, and we won. We shot 50% from the field. They shot 55%. We shot 33% from three. They shot 55% from three. So it's just tough. And again, I do think our defense was a little lacking, but not as much as you would think. I think it was a little bit of outlier shooting and stretches of bad offense that led to transition basketball and just big runs, just such a game of runs. And also free throws. They shot the same amount of free throws as we did, 18. We made 14, they made 16. I know it was a 7-point difference, but at the end of the game, a couple more free throws would have made a difference in terms of that being a 1 or 2 possession game at the end of it. Because we forced 19 turnovers. Our defense was not all the way horrendous. We forced 19 turnovers. We only had 11, but 6 of those were from James Harden, and I thought that definitely was rough from him. But he had 25 points, 4 rebounds, 17 assists. So his assist to turnover ratio is still like 3-1. So overall, still good. It is a lot of turnovers, though. You want better from your, who's been your best player this season. But 17 assists is crazy. And by the way, his defense was not good this game. Even one of his biggest fans that I talked to said that. I counted 7 times in the first half he got blown by in isolation. 7 times. It was bad. But he's doing a lot. You know what I mean? It's like he's been carrying a lot this season. We need Norman Powell back. Hopefully ease some of that on him. Is that hate for saying that he got blown by 7 times? I'm supposed to objectively talk about this team, right? So just saying. I need to remind you that because all these whiners in the comment section talking about me whining. Bruh, I'm talking about the game. And coming up, though, we're going to talk more about the performance of Kawhi Leonard and the progression that we're starting to see from him despite the loss. I think that's something positive to talk about. I got to tell you a little something about Skims. When I found out Skims was making underwear for men, I was intrigued. I've heard so much about their quality from friends and family, so I had to give it a try. Even the girls I'm living with were like, Skims make stuff for men? Let me tell you, it lives up to the hype. I've always had issues with underwear, fit, comfort, or just finding the right style for me. When I tried the Skims boxer brief, I became hooked. These are perfect for my active lifestyle because nowadays I'm conducting like a practice every single day. And of course, I like to jump in, sometimes demonstrate. So I need to be able to move freely. And with Skims, they never lose their shape and stay in place all day, whether I'm just running around or walking around the house. They're the most comfortable and reliable underwear I've ever owned. Plus, the lightweight materials feel amazing, almost like you're wearing nothing at all. Shop Skims Men's at skims.com/lockedonnba and Skims stores. Let them know we sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey and select our show in the drop-down menu that follows. That's Skims. All right, so the Clippers losing this one, 127 to 120 to the New Orleans Pelicans. We are now 35-30 on the season, and honestly, our road record is starting to become bad. 13-20 on the road, but on the other side, Clipper Nation, shout out to you, especially the Wall and the Swell. Really good home record. So I guess it's not just Amir Coffee; it's the whole team at this point. But we lose this one, and the worst quarter for us was the first quarter. You know what I'm saying? Down by 7. We actually outscored them in the second half by 3. So it was that first half. But again, that's not how the game works if you just look at it that way. There are ebbs and flows and runs of games. You got to make the big plays at the end of the games. As far as positive things, though, Kawhi Leonard had one of his best two-way games yet. 29 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, 1 block, and 1 turnover on 60, 50, 33 splits. I repeat, 60% from the field, 12 for 20. One thing I love, 20 shot attempts. That's all we need. And it started from the first quarter, deliberately getting him the ball in the mid post, and we're starting to see a little bit better, starting to see him get into those spots. To start the game, they had Trey Murphy on Chris Dunn, Bruce Brown on James Harden, Zion on Kawhi, Yves Missy on Zoo. They cannot guard him at all. CJ on Nico with Missy and drop. Pels were switching everyone but Missy and CJ on a James Harden. They'd have CJ hedging. On our part, we had Harden on Bruce Brown, Chris Dunn on Zion, Zoo on Missy, Nico on Trey, Kawhi on CJ McCollum. But we were sending help on Zion every single time. That's part of why they got open threes. We were sending help on Zion. That was the game plan. Make someone else beat us, and we got beat. So part of it, you can blame the coaching staff. But we don't really have it. We've never had a matchup for Zion in the 2-on-3 era. Never. So he's a problem when he's healthy. But Kawhi, when we were down 10-2, fast break layup and a 3, that got him going from the jump. You know what I mean? And I love that. We got to get our best player going early. And again, I saw the comments, and I'm trying not to respond as much these days. I just like when someone fights me, I like to fight back, and that's a bad habit of mine in life. I just need to walk away, but I can't walk away from arguments sometimes. I'm just too argumentative and competitive about that nonsense. And yes, it is nonsense because I really don't care as much as people that are watching the videos that are defending one guy constantly, which is a lot of people in the comments with Harden, honestly. And I think I've been fairly nice to him in this podcast. But again, nothing can satisfy these people. And I pay them way too much attention. So I apologize to all the Clipper fans and the 99% of the audience that is not YouTube commenters. And I always have to get reminded of that by my bosses because it's what I see. But there's so many people that'll come up to me at games and be like, yo, I listen to the show every day. I'm like, are you on YouTube? He's like, nah, I never comment. I'm just listening on audio. I'm like, oh man, I apologize to all of you. I wish I need to stop doing that, guys. I will be better about that. And I also released this episode too late. And again, I could go on here and give you a bunch of excuses as to why or reasons why. Let's just say, and I'm not going to do that because I don't need to toot my own horn, but let's just say that I'm making a lot of personal, not personal, but yeah, personal sacrifices for my players and certain families right now that we need to do something together. Okay, let's just put it that way. Kawhi, though, back to the more positive thing. The reason why I said that comment at last podcast about the first option thing is I think maybe we could beat the Rockets in the playoffs if James Harden is our best player and Kawhi is just 16, 17 points a game. Maybe Memphis as well. But the way it's looking like we're likely, maybe Memphis, honestly. So I'll say that. But against like the actual contenders, like OKC, Lakers, no, we need Kawhi to have a chance. Like the Kawhi, that's the number one option. If you don't agree with that, I think you're delusional. Quite frankly, you're completely delusional. And by the way, there's nothing that suggests when we played Houston that James Harden could be the best player and we're going to win, because we've been really bad against them this season. Their athleticism is crazy, but playoffs are a different ballgame. So I don't know. I think most Clipper fans agree that we need Kawhi to be Kawhi. I think that's a stupid point that people are arguing me on. It's not a slight to Harden. He's been the guy, but we need Kawhi to be that guy. And I thought this game. By the way, that does not mean we need him to be the guy every game. You know, obviously it's going to switch off. Some games Harden's going to be the guy, some games Norm. But the way our process is on the basketball court, we're not like the 60s Celtics or the '04 Pistons where it's like there's no pecking order. We have a pecking order. There's a guy that makes $50 million and we've sacrificed a lot for him. It's Kawhi Leonard. So we need to play through him like we were doing in this game. And I loved it. And it's not even like we were fully playing through him. He was just scoring in the flow of the offense, to be honest. We were just giving him the ball a little bit more. We were actually playing through Zoo, if anything, more than in other games. And Harden still as well. Hence the 17 assists and 25 points. I mean, 25, 4, and 17 and 2 steals. It's unfortunate we lost the game where Harden had that kind of line. 6 for 15 from the field, 4 for 11 from 3. Unlike the others, he made his free throws. 9 for 9 from the foul line in 40 minutes. But that's a lot of minutes, and we're playing a back-to-back against the Heat on Wednesday. It's tough. Harden, I'm worried that he's playing so well, but he's getting so much on him. But I'll say this. 4 for 11 from 3. Too many of his shots were threes. 11 out of 15, in my opinion. He could go to the basket a little bit more, especially with how his first step has looked the last couple of games. I don't want to, because there is a reason. Like, he is a little tired and he's gassed a bit. But, like, the first quarter, when he's 0 for 3 from deep, there's no point of, like, taking a step back 3 when you're already 0 for 3 from deep and he, like, airballed it. So that's the only criticism I have there. And, of course, the turnovers. Kawhi, though, as I said, amazing splits, 29 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, and a block. It's tough, you know, when we get those kind of lines. Zubac's even 19 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists, 4 blocks on 9 for 12 shooting, but 1 for 2 from the foul line in 38 minutes. We get heavy minutes from these guys. Kawhi Leonard is not going to play on Wednesday. And even Chris Dunn, 11 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals, and a turnover. He came to life in that fourth quarter. He had 5 for 11 from the field, 1 for 2 from 3. Played 31 minutes, so continuing his quest for defensive team. But the other guys, I just don't think we got enough. You know, Nico Batum, 3 for 9. He's been really hot lately, but 3 for 9 from the field, 2 for 8 from 3. We needed a little bit better there, only 8 points. Derrick Jones Jr., I thought he played pretty well, but not well enough from 3. And defensively, I didn't notice him as much, besides like one deflection he had in the beginning of the game. 11 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist. That's good. We'll take 11 points from Derrick. 4 for 7 from the field, but 1 for 4 from 3. Not great. Amir, 9 points, 1 rebound, 1 assist, 2 steals, no turnovers on 4 for 8 shooting. But also, all 3 of our bench guys, besides Kobe Brown, were 1 for 4 from 3. So 3 for 12. I mean, they got to be better. You know what I'm saying? The bench has got to be better. It's all hit or miss and depending on bogey, it seems. But Amir was 50% from the field, 4 for 8, but 1 for 4 from 3. Bogey, 8 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, and a turnover on 3 for 9 from the field and 1 for 4 from 3. So if I had to pick one guy that I would say was the most disappointing performance, it would probably be Bogdanovic. If you look at the individuals, I actually don't think they were that bad outside of Bogey. Nico had some really good defensive moments. He could have made shots. He could have been better, but like bad, I only think Bogey had a bad game. Nico had a bad shooting game, but he defensively did some good things. Honestly, though, he wasn't as good defensively as normal. So I'd say Nico had a below average game, but like he's entitled to that too. You know what I mean? It's not like he can be great every game, and he hasn't been great every game this season, but we're just starting to see him. I guess maybe this was the plan all along, or it's just his recent form. He's starting to get 20-plus minutes consistently. Or maybe it's just how we're shorthanded without Norm. I don't know, and Ben Simmons. But it's not a good loss, honestly. It's not a good loss. And I think closing, we got to be better. I think our role players got to, hit shots more. I like the offensive approaches going through Kawhi and Zoo more. But, Harden has been better defensively and is going to need to be than that. We're going to need to, be better at the end of games. Kawhi knocking down more shots towards the end of games. Us not turning the ball over as much at the end of games. And making free throws at the end of games. I think that's really big. But I think a lot of it is outlier shooting. I'm going to be honest. Don't want to make excuses, but I think a lot of it is a little bit of outlier shooting. But Miami, let's see how it goes. I haven't seen Andrew Wiggins play as a Miami Heat player yet, so that'll be fun. Wednesday, second out of a back-to-back, though, no Kawhi. Shout out to James Harden, though, man. He's really, and Zubats. These guys are really working their asses off. So let's see if we can get it done. 35-30. We are now the 8th seed still. So, and remember, we still have that tiebreaker over the Kings. So we're good to go. I'm just kidding. We're not good to go. We just got to make sure we finish above them. But it's looking more and more likely that we are going to be in the plan. 2 games behind the Warriors now in the 6th seed in the loss column. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod. Subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for even more LA Clipper, LA Sports, and NBA content. And Locked On Clippers is free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. Make sure you hit the notification bell and subscribe so we get to 7,000 subscribers before the end of the regular season. The age-old proverb, continues. Go Clippers.